We were in New York on Monday, holding an event with the New York Regional Office of the U.S. Census Bureau. And of course, our good friends and colleagues over at the U.S. Census, the New York Regional Office, appreciate them for their continual partnership with Fauna as we try to work out all of this classification stuff that's going on. We've actually come to realize that there's at least 5 different classifications of Indians. First being, of course, the federally recognized Native Americans, a process, and then their status changes. I'm not talking about the quote-unquote $5 Indians and all that. But, they got federally recognized, so their status changed from Indians to Native Americans. So you got your federally recognized Native Americans. Then you got the state recognized Native Americans, right? Because there's a lot of state recognized tribes out there. That's what the ones in Virginia were that just recently got federal recognition. So your federal Native Americans, your state Native Americans. Then you've got your urban Indians. And this is what most of us are who are aware of and identify with our Aboriginal indigenous heritage, urban Indians. These are the Indians that are in urban areas, just like it sounds. The whole urban Indian status. And y'all should definitely check into that. So that's 3 so far. Your 4th is your misclassified or unidentified Indians. And there's a lot of us out there as well. These are the individuals who can't prove any connection to Africa, but they're calling themselves African Americans, blacks, Negroes, whatever the case may be. But they're like in that in-between phase because they're not saying that they're indigenous, even though a lot of them are. I'm not going to say all of them are, but a lot of them are. And they also can't prove any connection to Africa. So you're stuck on this place called Africa America. And then the 5th one, and I've been seeing this one around a lot lately. And this is what I really wanted to talk about, is the status of Indians not taxed. That's in Article 1, Section 2 of the Constitution, I believe. A lot of people are saying, well, Indians aren't taxed, and that's not true. If you look at what the U.S. law states, right? So they did the Indian Citizenship Act. Pretty much said was that all Indians are citizens. Now remember, these things that they're stating are commercial claims, so they don't need to prove anything. We need to get out of that mindset that they need to prove anything. They're making a claim against us. And if we're not properly rebutting that claim, well, then that claim stands as fact in law. So when they said all Indians are citizens, at the time, our people were actually thinking that that was a good thing to be. Some of our family here from the Narragansett people and a couple other tribes ended up moving when they were pushing all the Indians west, and then ended up in a place in Wisconsin called Brothertown. But they ended up actually going for U.S. citizenship, thinking that it would help them out. And it actually did them a disservice. Citizens, and as a result of being a citizen like any other U.S. citizen, you're subject to whatever the U.S. says. You could either go to a res and be an Indian, or you can stay where you're at and get reclassified to something other than being an Indian. And you better shut up about being an Indian if you stay, because they're either going to come and take your kids from you, right? Throw them in an Indian school. They're going to come if they're the clan. If you're in clan territory, they're going to come and snatch your land for you and hang you up on a tree and all of that sort of stuff. But they're going to put the fear of their God into those populations so that they keep their mouth shut about who they are. A lot of us, because we didn't rebut that claim, you're under that status of being an Indian. And with that status of being an Indian, of course, they shored that up by making sure we got birth certificates, social security numbers, driver's license, all of these things that we were getting when we were unaware of what had transpired, that was shoring up their argument and their claim that we're actually their citizens, right? That were given the English names. Those are all enumerated somewhere, right? Those are all shown to be a part of the U.S. trust and U.S. citizens. I can go on to census as Raymond L. Watson and fill out that I'm an American Indian, but in their system, Raymond L. Watson has already been enumerated. He's already been marked down. He's already locked down in their system as being what he is. So for those of us out there that are just looking to reclassify to our proper status, you have to understand just how deep this game goes. It's not as simple as, oh, well, I'll just change my status and then I'm not subject to it. That's not true. The ones who are going to be Indians not taxed are going to be the ones who have maintained their tribal connections and citizenship with their separate tribal nations, and who have been acknowledged by treaties that the U.S. is beholden to. So we're acknowledged in these documents and treaties and things of that nature that predate the formation of the U.S. Why the Moorish claim that all of this land is a Mexican under Morocco is totally false, because our people were creating treaties with the British Crown that said nothing about Morocco, and we didn't have any treaties with Morocco. So that whole argument's going. Regular Indian status and into Indians not taxed, if that's the route that you're looking to go. You can't just say I'm an Indian, you can't tax me. You have to look at what the laws say. And you have to also look at the fact that a lot of us have literally been colonized and quote unquote civilized. And all I look at as civilization is just colonization. When they were saying civilized, they meant colonized. So when they say you're uncivilized, they meant you're uncolonized. That's the way I take it. But most of us have been colonized. Most of us were thinking that we were African Americans, black people, colored folk. Well, it's the fact that it was all done fraudulently, right? We were forced into these positions. We were terrified our ancestors were terrified into not sharing with their lineage who they were. So all of us are operating under these statuses, is that the word statuses, but they were fraudulently placed upon us. So we have the right, and this is where A-drip and undrip and all those come into play. We have the right to reclassify to who we actually are, because we did not make that transition voluntarily. It was forced upon us by individuals who knew what they were doing when they forced it upon us, knew exactly what they were doing. So it's fraud. And we can't be held liable or forced to take on the damages from fraud. And if we are who we say we are, then we have the right to be that. Now, the only way that you're going to be able to get to this Indians not tax status is if you get together with your bloodline family, identify exactly where your people were prior to the U.S. colonization, and then form the trust. And that's the only way it can be done. You cannot form a band. You cannot say, oh, well, all of us were misclassified, so we'll all get together. Because then you're not tying back to a specific land base, and you're not getting together with the rest of your tribal members. You don't have a government. You have a band. That's what a lot of these pan-Aboriginal groups would be classified as by law, bands, because there's a bunch of different Indians from a bunch of different tribes who are together. And you cannot form a band and then say, well, we're going to have a land claim here, because the people that are from that land have a stronger claim than you. They are a tribe. You are a band. Some of their tribal members might be there, but that doesn't overtake or is not superior to the claim of the bloodline people who have been there. You can't run off with another group and they say, well, I'm from there too, and I'm going to bring all of these other people here because I'm from there and I'm with these other people. This is ours. No, that's not how that works.